wallpaper project, you need to plan it out. I have been wallpapering for years, and until a few years ago, I learned about planning out wallpaper, and it's a game changer. Because if you take a minute to map out where you're gonna go, it'll make the finished product so much better. So I'll show you some fails I've had and how to do it properly so your wallpaper project will be amazing. I'm here in my bedroom in front of this beautiful wallpaper mural. Probably one of my favorite things about this space, besides the bed and the stained glass windows. But I absolutely planned out the placement of this first. So this mural, the most interesting part is right here, this branch. And you might think, why didn't you center that on the room? And that's because I knew I would have this canopy in the room. So I put one branch on either side of the canopy. So actually when the canopy is not up, behind it is a little bit boring. So you get the most beautiful parts on either side. And I planned that out because I want this room, and it's all centered in the middle. And it's just because that's the look I wanted. So you just have to take that little extra time to be like, okay, if I start here, how will this lay out? And how can I get the best look afterwards? So we're in my kitchen, and here's one more example of a mural that I took a lot of time planning out. So the fireplace in the mirror is obviously the center of the wall, and I centered the wallpaper on that, and I worked out. Usually you work from one side to the other. I started from the middle, worked out, and you can see how good it looks on either side of the mirror, having the branches next to the windows. I just think that looks really nice. Wallpapered this corner, you know, probably 4 years ago, 5, I don't know. And one thing I was really mad at is when I got to this corner, I was like, oh, if I would have mapped it out, I could have had the seam, you know, over here instead of ending right on the corner, and it's like pulling up. So that was a bad fail with planning wallpaper that is easily preventable. This is one of my favorite hallways in my entire house. This leads to the bedroom, and then my bathroom's over here. And on this wall, I have wallpaper and my whole like wall of little houses. I think it's fun. I didn't really plan out the wallpaper in here. I was like, it's so small, whatever. And I wasted a bunch of wallpaper over here. And then when I got to this corner, I didn't quite have enough. So I put some up here, and then I had to use a remnant down here. Let's see if you can see up close. Look at it. Sad, huh? So that's what happens when you don't plan ahead. We're in my son Don's room, and I am going to be wallpapering this wall. The first thing I did was I ordered some samples, and I put them on the wall. This one is pill and stick, and this is traditional, and I actually pasted it on so I could see if I was okay with how much texture was showing through. And I was also testing out the scale. So the very first thing you want to do, get some samples, put them on the wall, make sure they will work with what you have. The main thing you want to do when planning out your wallpaper is to see where, if you start here, where it's going to end up. So what I like to do for that is to cut off a piece of the end, and that's usually just like a barcode or something. So it doesn't matter, you're not wasting wallpaper, but then this gives you the perfect width. What I like to do is use Post-it notes. So you could mark with a pencil, but then you need to like erase it. And I find this is like way easier to use. And I put like a 1 and then an arrow. So the arrow shows you where the edge of the wallpaper is, and then you'll know how many strips you've got to do. So I'm going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, and go all the way down the wall. I think this wall will have 6. But this is the perfect way to know for sure where you start and where you stop. So I have this. Let me get my first sticky note. And so that's as far as I can go, but I'm going to want to do a little bit more so that I have some to trim off in case this isn't perfectly straight. So I'm going to like do 1 inch for that. And then this is piece number 1. So then we move all the way down and we say that's where 1 was. This is where 2 is going to be. And you keep going, because remember in my craft room where I had that corner, if I would have planned this out, I could have said, oh, if I cut out like an extra inch over on this side, I won't have this weird overhang on the corner. So this is why we're planning it, so that you can have that nice finished result. Okay, we've made it all the way to this side. This is piece number 6, and you can see if I start where the post-it is and end at the wall, I'll have a few inches left over, which is great. So I'm happy with how that falls. So I can start on that end, wallpaper, and get to here, and it'll be a good start and stop. So that's all you need to do to plan it out. It takes like 2 minutes, but it just makes so much sense to actually think about it instead of just being like, oh, here's my wallpaper, I'll slap it on the wall. I've already planned out the other wall, and let's actually start wallpapering it, and I'll show you the other things I do to prep for a really good wallpaper job. After testing out the sample on the wall, what you're going to do is you're also going to take off any art on the wall, any light switch covers, outlet covers. You're going to smooth the wall that way by just taking off the extra stuff. Since I'm doing an angled wall, I really don't have anything like that. The other thing you're going to do after you test your sample is that's going to really tell you if you need to do anything with the texture. So if you're looking at it and you're like, this is really bugging me how much texture is showing, you have an option. You can buy more expensive wallpaper or different wallpaper. If it's a really light color, sometimes going to a darker color will make it so you don't see it as much. So you can choose different wallpaper, or you can smooth out the wall. And I have a whole video on how you take drywall mud, you roll it onto the wall, you smooth it out, you sand it, and that will give you a really smooth wall, which is amazing for before you wallpaper. Lots of wallpaper companies will tell you you need to have a smooth wall before you install this wallpaper. And I don't think that's true. I have wallpapered over so many textured walls, and a lot of times a nice thick wallpaper that has the traditional paste that you put on before will totally hide the texture. It just depends on the quality of your wallpaper, on how textured the walls are, and the color of wallpaper you're doing. So testing it will totally tell you. So don't let a wallpaper manufacturer scare you off. They just want to make sure that you're successful, and if it shows through and you're not happy and you want a refund, they're protecting themselves. Next, we're going to prime if needed. When do you need a prime before your wallpaper? So number one, you have to if you just put up fresh drywall, so that needs to be cleaned and primed. If you don't, the drywall will suck up all your paste and your wallpaper won't stick. Don't do that. Number two, you need to prime if you've done the drywall mud to smooth your walls. So you absolutely have to prime after that. Number three, if you have paint on your wall that's going to show through the wallpaper, you need to prime that. You can get your primer tinted. I usually just leave it as is because it comes in like a white, and usually the background on my wallpaper is a white. But if you're doing like a red wallpaper, have it tinted the same color red. You can have the hardware store do that, and then if it happens to show in the cracks, it like looks like part of the wallpaper. Cool little trick. Once it's primed, you need to wait 24 hours before wallpapering, and that's just so the primer will totally set. If you're thinking, I want to paint before I wallpaper, you can do that, but paint needs to dry 30 days before it's fully set and before you can wallpaper. So I don't suggest it unless you have a lot of time on your hand. I have painted before I've wallpapered, and I did it like the day before, and then I wallpapered, and I had two bad outcomes. Let me tell you about it. Number one, the paint still tried to dry under the wallpaper, and that released air and it made bubbles, and it looked horrible. I did my best to fix it. I could never really fix it. Number two, I removed wallpaper after I painted, I wallpapered, it looked fine, and then I removed it and the paint came off in chunks, and I had to fix the drywall. So that's not fun. So either of those, bad solution. Just prime. Plus primer is cheaper than latex paint, so might as well. So if your wall has already been painted with latex paint more than 30 days before your wallpapering, just leave it. It's totally fine. What you do want to do is you're going to want to clean it. So if it's like pretty dirty and nasty, you're going to want to use TSP with hot water and really scrub those walls down. If it's not so dirty, you can just mix hot water with vinegar to wash the walls, and that will be all you need to do to prep for the wallpaper. So another thing I'm planning out is which cats will sit where on the wall. So you need to figure out where the top of your wallpaper will go and where the bottom will. So my angle on my wall is about 59 inches. So I'm going to measure that out, and I've got to decide, you know, which cats will be at the top. Should it be the pink and orange ones, or should it be the yellow ones? And if the yellow ones are at the top, then that means this will be at the bottom. So I've just got to decide if I like what will hit. Do I like this on the ceiling? Do I like this on the chair rail? And once I decide that, I am going to cut my first piece. And I'm gonna do it above what I need so that I can trim, because the wallpaper or the wall is gonna be a little bit, you know, not straight. So I'm gonna go above where I'm thinking and cut that piece off, and that'll be my first piece. Okay, we're gonna prepare to wallpaper, and the first thing we're gonna do is, this is my normal paint tray that I use for paint, and I'm gonna use it for wallpaper paste. So I am going to cover it in a garbage bag, and I've learned this the hard way. If you put wallpaper paste in here and then you let it dry, you don't clean it out, and then you put paint in, your paint will pick up little pieces of wallpaper paste and ruin your paint finish. So this is something I always do. Okay, then at the bottom, we're gonna put our wallpaper paste in. Squeeze a generous amount. And then we have our roller and our paintbrush, and we're ready to get started. The next thing we've done to prep is put this laser level on the wall. So it's on a tripod over there, and it's telling me where the straight line is so I can line up my wallpaper. And I only use it on the first one, and then the next ones after that, I line the wallpaper up on that. So it's really important to get this first piece on perfectly. I'm having a bit of a hard time with one section of Dawn's wallpaper. When I put it in, it's like it had a big bubble in the seams, and it's just so raised. I can't go on with it looking like that. So my plan is to use a steamer and try to get it so hot that the wallpaper will come off without damaging it. And so then I can go back with paste and stick it down. But I don't know if that'll work because I might damage it. So okay, I just finished smoothing this down, and I think it actually worked. I need to let it dry. This wallpaper has been so bubbly. On the other side of the room, I put some up, and for weeks it had big bubbles in it, and then it went down. So this could go up again. I'm hoping you can kind of see this one. I'm hoping that one will go up, down. I don't know. It's kind of been a pain in the butt wallpaper. But I'm more than halfway done, so I gotta finish. I wanted to film putting up the last piece of wallpaper on that wall because from what I planned is it shouldn't be too much wallpaper that you feel like you're missing or like that you're wasting wallpaper, and it shouldn't be too little that you're stressed you won't have enough. It should be a good amount, and that's the whole point of planning your wallpaper before you start. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already, I'd love if you would subscribe so you can see more videos just like this one.